everyone. We are here in front of the Academy of Fine Arts where we will start our type walk today. It will be guided by Domen Fras, so thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Domen Fras and welcome at the University of Ljubljana Academy of Fine Arts and Design. A type walk will lead us to through the material, historical, cultural and also linguistic characteristics of type forms in Ljubljana. And while searching for common design features and typefaces of the city, we will pay attention to repetitive patterns, vivid inscriptions, different compositions, maybe unusual ligatures, and innovative but sometimes also neglected diacritical marks, which are very crucial for Slavic languages. This is not going to be a lecture, but rather a walk and a talk. So we will share some subjective observations on formal aspects of visual communication in urban environments. We will focus on well-known objects that hide some details we usually just walk by. The concept of a walk uncovers very important skill which is decisive for typographic education. There's the one question: how do we observe type and how to understand what we are observing, actually what we are looking at? I must also note that some inscriptions are deeply connected with buildings or sculptures behind them. Therefore we will touch a bit of architecture and art as well. As walkers come from a different backgrounds, and I also do not know who else has joined online, I'll try to speak simply, only briefly serve you with data and focus on the essence. However, I cannot avoid use of terminology to explain the subject. We expect to walk 5 kilometers, about 40 stops, and shouldn't be more than 2 hours. If there are any questions, just shout, say, and if you spot an interesting object or something as well, stop us and we will discuss it. So if that's okay, we'll just go on and see our first. This is the plate on the building of the academy, the headquarters, which was moved in here in 1962. We have chiseled capitals in the Roman style, sort of quite even spacing, but a bit of problem with word space behind the second word. And I would like to pay attention. This is a pattern that we will see all around the city when discussing Roman capitals. A very special one is U, that has a minuscule form. That means that the stem on the right side is lower to the baseline. Our next stop is a monument of the Liberation Front. Here we have a nice obelisk. Designed by Edward Raunikar, an architect, 1953. It's a female silhouette, like a skirt with folds. But when we discuss the type, we have a geometric typeface, which is quite vivid. I would like to emphasize letter O, which is like a circle, but it goes to the within the line system, quite liberally, I would say. This type or this style of lettering also resembles the lettering in the memorial in Campor at Island Brač. So it's the same author and the same typeface. And I will also show you the use of the critical marks, which is again quite liberal, but the one that we will also see somewhere else. This is monument for Boris Kidrić. Sculptor was Denko Kalin. Now we see the B is missing, and you also have a slight problem here, again with the critical mark. So there's nothing here. Yeah. See, very sort of formal lettering for this type of work. Sometimes it's even better to apply typeface within the material rather edit. What could happen, like letters just can fall off. It's quite. Yeah, it was vandalized. Yeah, most of these things are particularly Kittredge, which is rather controversial figure. I would say is what this sculpture was vandalized quite a lot. Now we are here at the Tomb of National Heroes by architect Edo Michels and sculptures Boris Kalin, 1949. We have a carved style of letters here, but there is no trace of the tool. So could be that it was done already by the machine. The letters have slight of a contrast, no terminal, no serifs, but what I would really like to emphasize is how the words go around the thumb. There is no word space, and actually you need to know the verse to read it, but only in between you have star, but also this asterisk that depicts a sentence. And if you take a look at closer to the letters and the pattern, you will see this really nice ligatures like V and A, D and R and A, G and A, and very innovative use of the critical mark. Actually, Slovene language only has one diacritical mark, which is Charon. Actually, here we also see acute at Sharanowicz. So the use of and the difference of Charon and acute here is quite innovative. The rest was added, so we can here see a Simončić that has a certain reminiscence to what is above, but definitely of not such a quality. Also, the Charon here is quite different. Please pay attention to treatment of engraved letters. So we will see something like that at Lichnik's Illyrian pillar. Yeah? Trg Republike, the Republic Square, of course, the building of the Parliament. Vinko Glanc as an architect, Karl Kutrich and Zdenko Kalin, allegory of working people. I would say, as in terms of composition, you have really nice sort of functional, modernistic shape with its tiny little details. Some of them almost in natural size. So this is about the Parliament. Let's mention briefly. The next thing which is quite interesting here is Maxi Market, which used to be called Emona Maxi Market. And in these vertical windows, in between the beams, at the ends, you have a logotype of Emona of that time. That was in the 70s. Again, the architect of the square was Eduard Raunika. Again, we have, if you take a look at the light posts, they are custom designed pots from the bottom. It's something you would hardly find in today's architecture. Mainly architects actually collect from different catalogs of producers. Another important part here is time display. Set up in 1975, put into repair in 2017, and people of Ljubljana were quite depressed because there was no watch anymore. And it shows in three different directions. One is a square, one is the Selova ulica, and one is to Rjavčeva. Very important part, I would say it's like an iconic symbol of showing it. The notice in the newspaper was the Ljubljana Big Band was shut down. What now? And after 6 months of hesitation, it was brought back because the building is in private ownership. So there were some complaints. And of course, the previous display was quite energetically was quite peckish. It took a lot of energy. There's a monument of revolution. It's one of the biggest, one of the largest. Let me show. Yeah, public sculptures in the country. It was wielded of 170 pieces, and it weighs 19 tons of bronze. The author is Drago Tešar, architect is Vladimir Braco-Mušić, also 1975. There's an inscription, but I would say it's not so nice. From far we can see quite wide lines, problems with spacing. This is something you might go and see later. From that point of view, I don't know what is gonna be seen in on the screens on the Facebook, but there is Cankar monument. Slavko Tihec and Mirkus Dovc, an architect, 1982. There's increased scale and raster in the new material that creates an interesting moving, like illusionist image. This is very much like any other raster image, or let's say a typeface. The closer you get, the more abstract it comes. So you will see when you get closer, the image of Cankar will vanish, and you will only see this. At the end, you will see quite thick lines in between. At the moment, they don't appear so thick, but they will be by the time that we get there. Just take a look at TR3, Trg Republike 3, and we will see there are two. Actually, it's one design, but two different manifestations. The one is already under atmospheric influence. So what we have here at Ex Iskra building, Trg Republike 3, that's the name of the street, of course, we have a nice, well-crafted brass type. Or actually, it's a type of a Bodoni, something that goes to 18th, early 19th century. But as a craft piece, it's really amazing, and somehow it makes a contrast towards this modernist, functionist architecture. Something you would hardly find today in this manner of manifestation, of materialization of type. Okay, this plate resembles the Plečnik's models of type, and the types he used to set in his blueprints. And you should really be careful, with that archaic A with a second bar, horizontal bar on the top. Also, the leg of R is deeply connected with the style of Roman capitals. The Roman capital is so-called eternal letter, which is also used, serves this type of letters serves as a model for almost 2 millennia now. For capital letters. Lowercase letters, they have a different model, which comes out of the calligraphy. Just as we pass by this briefly, logotype of Cankar Dome by Maya Span. But when Cankar Dome was opened, logotype was different. Now you get closer to the image of Cankar, the portrait that was actually based on photograph of Bertolt. You see the raster, the interpretation of raster, and there is no more image anymore. So it became really abstract form. Here we have one of his verses. Moje delo je slut Nazarja. Anyone who can help me with translation. And here Cankar's signature. But it's really sort of cool if you go around and you see this third, but actually also you can call it fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is that this image of Cankar starts actually to travel with you when you go around. It's really, really nice. nice piece of work. And again, see, it somehow has a connection with the facade of Raunikas, skyscrapers, with the facade of Ljubljanska banka in Sankarevo. Yeah, there's so many these tiny little things that are nicely connected together. You could also say that it's the blueprints have been materialized in this edgy forms of overlapping lines. Herman Hus, Maliny Butičnik, small skyscraper, 1932, and Francesc Kral as a sculpture of a modern child. The very first plan was that there should be 12 of sculptures, sculptures around the building, but at the end there was only one. And I think it's beautifully placed on the corner. And having sculptures on the corners in houses or buildings in Ljubljana is quite a common feature. So you might spot it also somewhere else. We're going to the backyard of Ferrand's garden, Ferrand Vrt. Again, residential buildings, residential blocks by Edward Raunikar. But again, we're looking for something really tiny. Here we have Richard Jakupic, Slovenian impressionist painter, by Janez Bolka, 1996. Here we know, as I believe many of you also know Bolka's work. There's an innovative approach in interplay of material. What is material and what is void. And I really like that this composition, this sculpture is put here behind this almost jungle of trees. So actually, it has an interplay. This one, you just, you can touch him around here, go through, and then you have trees behind, bushes. Agro Progress building is next of our interest, by Jože Kuželj, 1966, and you have concrete beams that are profiled like letter A, because the building used to be Agro Progress. A slight some remains here are the lettering above the entrance, and we will see the same lettering is here on the on the other side of the room. So all the beams, though, like, in orthogonal structure, they have this A. Again, something that you would probably hardly find in today's interpretation of architecture. Since the ownership of the building has changed, there's also been some other crucial changes to this building. And it's not so nice as it was before. Also, in terms of designing architectural detail, we have a very different approach. Like the handle here, the door, again, it's designed separately, it's customized. And here now we have, of course, we all agree with better urban future. But if you put something like that on an old Agro Progress sign, I don't know, many of you maybe remember, it's not really excuse for a better urban future. So it's a problematic for us who love nice type, nice custom-made platforms. They are covered now with something. One tiny little thing, we have a dragon holding a sheep with golden fleece in his mouth, and it has some connection with the owner who designs his jewelry, somehow related to Greek mythology, and there is maybe a connection to Jason and Argonauts, and also the jewelry is called Golden Fleece, Latorini. I believe all of you knew that we will stop here as well. Yeah? It has everything, architectural masterpiece, and also masterpiece in lettering. Again, well-known couple was here, like Plečnik and Domina, 1929. We have similar types to the tomb of national heroes. It's chiseled, but there is no trace of a tool. So you suppose that there was something already mechanical in behind. Yeah? Without serifs, we have high contrast. It's very well balanced. It's even spacing. There are no ligatures, the one that we saw later. We need to know that there was like 20 years of difference between this engraving and the engraving that we see at Tomb of National Heroes. But there are some similarities. Is there anything that might, within the type, someone that can disturb you? Something, this type of people around. I see some faces. Okay. Two things. Huh? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we have two situations. There's a letter U that has reversed contrast. We would say so. Usually, the convention is the letter U on the left side is thicker and on the right side is thinner. But here is just this difference, nicely different. So it could be considered as a typographical mistake. And also, the same problem goes with letter V, which should have a downstroke that is thicker and upstroke that is thinner. But actually, we see it's ruined. But definitely, in a compositional sense, in a pattern way, and actually also the time when this was set up, built, really good example. The rest about Illyrian pillar you will read somewhere else. But to see this, you have to get really close. You can't find anything like that in books or monographs or on photographies because it's really small detail. Behind me is a monument to Simon Gregorčić in mid-30s. Let me see. The sculpture is again Zdenko Kalin, but what we need to say here about type, this is because we are here. We have
It's Dolina.
This type. Yes, please.
Dolina.
Dolina, probably. It says Zdenko Kalin. Okay, it's a mistake. Then thank you very much. I'll fix this. We have very open and smoothly modulated Roman type, but no attention to the critical marks. You see, it's even worse what you can hear. The caron is substituted by Cyrillic breve, and it's simply added like sort of necessary, and I would say it's careless planning. What we have here is a nice line space, but here everything is very much condensed. Particularly, these things, I don't believe that they were made deliberately, but more or less like.
No. May I add something?
Yes.
I think because in English doesn't work, but because it's about the river and the boat, it wants to put the waves and the boat
Yeah, but
line.
but
The waves of the river.
if you want to express the boat in typography, then you don't express it this way, because it means something. If it's put here and if it's not a caron but breve, then it changes the pronunciation. So that's the idea of knowing the rules and knowing when to break them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always just thought because
Yeah. Well, one could also see the waves here, but I don't
in
feel.
the boats.
Yeah, in the boats.
It
but-
says the boat.
Yeah. But on an abstract level, the boat can be any other vessel as well that carries us across. take care of this one. You will see this type again. And of course the letter J, just prolonged I. Now we are in Križanke. I believe you've already been here and also saw many new things here. It's been written a lot. What I'd like to emphasize here is Plečnik's interpretation of serpent kladivo. Help me.
Sickle.
Yeah, hammer and sickle, of course. Hammer and sickle. Proletarian communist symbol in year 1953. So it's a bit different. This is graffito. Then we have the other motifs in graffito, and as well behind is there's a lettering. Menil Sivetva Dela supposed to mean, which we cannot see at the moment. But definitely we will pay attention to Plečnik's Busta, designed by sculptor Vladimira Bratušlaka, and that was his assistant Anton Bittens, also architect, and she also designed this sculpture. The difference between in years is, I think this one was designed in 1950 and the other one in 80s, and they are here present all the time because this was their common project of renovation of the monastery. It probably needs another renovation. Yeah. One of oldest, let's say, medieval part of Ljubljana. We have an inscription on the portal, 1567. Maybe if Sava was with us, she could also add something about this plate. Nice and consistent treatment of space above letter L, and also here. So it's, L is prolonged and the stem is prolonged and the leg goes further. Krzyżewniczka ulica, maybe where is Anna Maria? You will spot something with U again. This one is balanced, so you see it has both strokes, very thick, and number 2 is also, so let's say, unbalanced form, but very form. New building of School of Architecture, belongs to the University of Ljubljana. In 90s, I think 96, 97, it was built. The architect was Miloš Florjancic, and the assistant, the designer of the typeface, was Evita Lukeš. So what you can see here above the portal entrance is Arhitektura, and the same letters appear within the building. They resemble Plečnik's lettering for his blueprints. So maybe when you walk by next time, you take closer look. To see. Again, you have upper strokes on the A and a very special leg of letter R. Zoisova Pyramida as a special, let's say, landmark, city mark, and again open Roman letters. This is what it's an archetype of Plečnik's treatment of lettering on his artworks. Gabriel Gruber, the engineer, constructor of the Ljubljana channel. Of course, we will pay attention to type. What we have here is geometrical type with really tiny diacritical marks. But again, we can find some resemblance on the obelisk of Liberation Front with this O's. Because everything is so condensed. There's a missing bar at A, but no problem. Hyphens designed like this. Mostly the word spacing is okay, and there's quite a condensed pattern. So nice part, except the critical mark. They are always very, very tiny. I think we had some kind of problems with that. By the way, the sculpture was Janis Pirnat. Yeah, it comes out of manual writing, out of calligraphy. So usually hyphens.
Because today they would never do like that.
Again, you know, it's one thing is convention in texts, as we say, and one thing is lettering, which is more like one piece of text, and you have much more, let's say, freedom when designing this. So it could also be a dot or something else, because out of the common sense you understand that it's hyphenation.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't see it today. Yeah. But sometimes you will see, even the plate is rather young, not so old. You can use some of these old treatments, some old manners, because typography is very old craft, and it's constantly revived. So you see something you saw somewhere else, just a different form. Everybody is actually referring to everybody. Okay. Next stop is entrance to St. Jacob's Church, and we see something that might distract you, might start to bother you. And if anyone knows, just raise a hand and we will discuss this. You will see the line of type is not really even. The line of type is not so even. This is what might start to disturb you, and you will need to decipher something. Anyone seen this before? Anyone knows what is it? What is it about? No. It's the thing that is called chronogram. It means that letters from Roman numerals are emphasized, and then you decipher them into the date. So we have here M as 1000, D as 500, and we have two C's as centum, 200, so it's 170, and then you have L, which is actually it's not L, it's I. It's 1, so it's should be 1701. That's a chronogram. And there's another one here, so nice one. And there are different types of chronograms, and I will tell you what is quite important for that is that the pure chronogram, each word contains a numeral. In the national chronogram shows all the numerals in the correct numerical. This is quite a common practice all over the place. Yeah. Okay, here we are. This is really good.
Very hot.
This is really nice, and I say everything stands. Also the hierarchy, and we have again the same pattern of Roman capital in Ljubljana. Also, what we pointed out, like the critical marks, they are just well done here, and the details of the letters, like connecting diagonals with stems, is cool. The whole composition is very well balanced, and we also have this hierarchy with gilded letters for sure. Really nice piece. Bit modest, but yes. It also has the same detail as letter N. So that's the connection. Yeah? They are. Of course, we need to know these letters are not so well balanced in the middle, like all the middle bars are on the same horizon, you can say. Therefore, A looks a bit heavy on the top. But as long as you go for the lettering, for the inscriptions, this work well. Yeah. Sveti Janez Nepomuk, St. John's Nepomuk by Francesco Roba, 18th century. And here is another piece of art, I would say. Another chronogram, just exe aqua bibendam consul propinam. Latin proverb, which is glejte voda, župan jo ponuja. Yeah. So, look, water. We have, yeah?
Offered by the mayor.
Look, water. The mayor offers it for drinking. V presents 5, so you have 2 V's instead of X, which usually presents 10.
And then it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you have to put some effort in. Particularly, while planning it, designing it, and also reading and deciphering. So it's good. It's good for brain. Yeah. Okay. Slovene readers will know what is interesting about this. Yeah, it's P instead of B. You know, it's not orthographically correct. But the type is quite present. It's there also. Many of the critical marks, they work well, even though they are slightly squeezed. There's many things in study text, so you can actually observe, see on your own as well. I will just sort of emphasize 2 or 3 positions. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can switch for 5 minutes back and you remember Gruber, same style, type, treatment, proportions. It's not a trapeze. Yeah, it's parallelogram here, parallel rectangle instead of trapeze form. O's, the critical marks, parentheses. Quite the same. There is Christophorus, small statue, and from here you can see it's nice lettering. Slashicharna. Something that stays here from, let's say, older times, and this is what is sort of very rare in Ljubljana. We don't have much of this old lettering on the buildings. So whenever it comes to your power, try to keep these things. They leave the traces of different times, different living conditions, different cultures, and so on. Because Ljubljana is a city where many cultural, economical, social crossroads have been. Yes, please.
I have a question which I've also had before. Why is there no distinction between a 0 and the O?
Aha, because there is no need to have it here.
Okay, sorry.
Again, we are not dealing with text.
Okay. So it's the same as with them.
Yeah, it is understood out of the context. Out of the context, yeah. So when it comes to when something round is in a combination of figures, then we know it presents numbers. When something round in the context of other letters, then we know that it presents O. Yeah, I know that you've been already informed by that to pay attention to the difference between 0 and O.
Yes.
Yes. But mostly when we deal with text typeface.
Thank you.
This one is for fun. The plumber. That's an exceptional vernacular design. It's really cool. Designers, you should be a bit jealous about that. You should be a bit jealous. Okay, let's go further. There's some things I will sort of, spot on. Like many things to see. We're not stopped by everyone, all of them, but some. Here I'm supposed to say nothing, because we have Schweiger here, which from German, if you translate it to Slovenian, it says Molčečne, the one who is silent. Therefore, these are cornerstones by Boris Kubé. He was a city architect in the 60s of previous century. You will find more of this. It's around here and there. Potrančo. This is also his design. Early revitalization of older cities. So this is what you have, and it's a really nice example. Played for Jani Svankart well as well. So I would say everything you would really like to have in such a composition. Open Roman type of capitals, a bit of special letter R, of course Latin treatment of the language, so there is no U but you only use V, and we have a vertical letter J, no spacing in between letters, a very rigid compact composition, but open letters. Very well balanced. Number 6, the one we already saw. Number 2, similar to Križevniška. And of course, there is no number 5 because it can be extended with V. Again, like Anna Maria, you were asking, now we have a Latin V, which represents 5, the 5th month. This one is rather small and tiny, but again, quite hard to find.
Oh.
Yeah. They have some resemblance. Francesca, you were asking before about A.
Yeah.
You see the similarity of Gazelle. Mm-hmm. But there was sort of, at the time, these plates were put on some kind of trend or fashion, or just the idea of or the timestamp. Yeah. Trancha, again, cornerstones with nice faces, happy, lively. We have them here, and around, also from towards Mesniter. But actually we'll go across Šuštarski most, Shoemaker's Bridge. Radio Kričač was a radio of Liberation Front in years 1941, 1942. Again, nice manifestation of a typeface. Let's say in a graphical design sense, we have different layers of type, but again, I'm disappointed. What has happened with those carons? We use them, they are very important. If you say Radio Kričač with shouter, the chach at the end is very prominent, it's there, Kričač. Well, it says Radio Kričac. So we can start crying. There is something that kids, when in 1915, 1916, when the Jakub Jožef na glas put the title of the headquarters of his furniture company on the wall, on the house, kids running around started to pronounce this Jokal je na glas. In English it means he cried out loud. But as a typographers, you could also start to cry out loud. Is there something that bothers you?
Yes, crazy.
Bravo, Anna Maria. Bravo, Anna. The N is upside down. That's the first one you spot. We have two more.
E. In Cyrillic.
Yeah.
N is upside down. But it's beautiful. It should stay like that. Please do not fix it. Otherwise I will lose the audience. National Library. Statue of Moses pointing with his right hand to the reading room. Quite important position. And also on the portal of the National Library we have one of the first interpretations of Slovene coat of arms. Triglav and the sea. Okay, the coat of arms. One of the first interpretations of it, like artistic. And of course, we shouldn't forget to mention the iconic handle with a horse head. It actually goes beyond Ljubljana's icons. It has become Slovene icon of open knowledge, let's say. As I said in the beginning, there are certain places, objects, streets connected with architectural planning, designing. This is Vegova, of course, work of Plečnik. What is important about this street is the profile of the street. We have the road, and then we have the belt of trees, and then we have the quite wide pavement, and here's the terrace, again with bustas of Slovene composers, Slavic composers, help me. It has a very special profile of the street. This is what we need to see here. This part behaves as a terrace. Of course, behind there, the musical school, part of academy, a conservatorium, and so on. So it has this connection. The terrace has a connection to musical practicing. Here again, you see on the facade of Glasbena Matica, really nice graffitos. Nice treatment of type, and again, no letter J with the hook, and no letter A with the bar. Like Volarich, presenting L and A as a ligature. There's been a lot of work put into this. Careful planning. It's really beautiful. Right here, at this sort of Ljubljana's Roman capital. Zebra was one of the first photocopy shops in Ljubljana. It's quite logical, yeah. Zebra, black and white. And the logotype stays from that time. 80s probably. If anyone knows the exact date, can add. And it's nice to see when things are a bit used. Not everything is so new, but there's certain trace of time. We'll sneak behind here quickly, shortly. You need to get really close to see what I would like to show you here at this display. The building was refurbished years ago, and also the plate was polished. So therefore you have really small and very tiny little charons inside the letter S, just Sveto Marold, Špik, Rudi Pešl, and Francie Sturm. They have small, they used to be larger, but when they polished the plate, the depth of the cairns is not so deep anymore. Also, hence they were asking what two little dots at the end mean. Definitely, this here is not a hyphen. Out of the context is a colon. Yeah. And if you remember the very first OF obelisk we saw, there were also cairns underneath the outskirts. A small little detail which can be used. If you come across with a design task like that, it's a nice example. Piece of lettering that really perfectly suits on a building like that. It has, actually the letters, they have quite condensed proportion or even proportions. The only problem you will find is that round letter, particularly O, is just too low, and that's because of there was no optical compensation. Otherwise, it is somehow conical. As the next one means no optical, it's one of those logos that might become logos that you will if they vanish, we will definitely miss them a lot. That's a really sort of weird type form. When they're put together and when they're present in the urban space, urban environment, you just can't miss them anymore, and they become common. Competition spot number 2. Oh, now you gained two extra points, Anna Maria. So now tell us what you see.
First of all, the S is turned upside down, and there is the same problem with the N with previous themes, and the JJ Naglas, Miriam Naglas, they are both. Probably the person who put them up didn't know.
It was the same.
Maybe the same person. So they just. It's all wrong.
It's all wrong, but it's there.
It's there. Yeah.
It's there. Shouldn't be touched. No one should fix it. Also, the O, again, it's little small, a bit tinier than anything else. I see. There are things that started to bother you. That's good. That's good. But do not take them for granted. The memorial of victims of all the wars, architects Rok Žnidaršić and his crew, and I believe the consultant for the type was our friend Marko Drpić. The sentence, actually the verse here, is same as a part of it as one of the Tomb of National Heroes. The verses, the lines are divided by middle dot, but again, there is something missing. Something has vanished. Something is in the air. Something has a problem here. There's no Karen. Petra. This is a problem, isn't it? This is how. No, excellent.
It's excellent.
Yes,
Because someone, if you would climb, you would see it.
Yeah.
Or sit.
Just one of the solutions, of course. Ražno, Dijaški dom, Students' Hall. Again, there is something added. Sort of something unnecessary. What do we should do with these two branches? What would be the best? Like this or like that? Well, just put something on. A masterpiece. The master ever. The one that probably stays here for, let's hope, almost 100 years. Painted with, actually gilded behind, on the back side of the plate, the back side of the glass. Like 3 or 4 things here. The first one is, if we take a look back, we see Julia, Julia, Prescient's muse, looking at him. Now the statue, 1905 sculpture. The next thing is, these students help me with this nice and funny about Ave Grazia Plena. Actually, we have four words, yeah, instead of 3.
Yeah, funny.
And then there's another N upside down. Okay, for fun. Next thing you should do, if nobody points you out, is Urban's house, Centro Mercur. There's a profile of an owner. His head is at Mercur's feet. If you can zoom in, at the top of the corner there's a statue of Mercur, and if you can see, can you see his head next to his feet? Yeah. That's, you know, a small little face of Ljubljana that looks at you all the time, but you don't spot him. This is how the owner of the house was sort of signed in. And there's small little detail that really bothers me. Can you help me with that one? Nice pattern, spacious. It's quite high with the axis, the bars. Of course, it unbalances letters, but that's the style. But somehow, the S, and particularly the caron, just doesn't fit into it. Just, you can't put it together. If you have any sense for the type, that's something wrong with this S. It should have different presence, maybe more geometrical, more rational, or I don't know, maybe it was idea behind it. This is the typeface that was designed after Plečnik's titles in Book of Stories by Fižgar Makalonca. And the type was designed, redesigned, redrawn by Professor Lucian Bratoš. And when the marketplace was renovated, this type was put on. So you have on many of entrances here in the marketplace, and it's really good because it's spacious. And of course, you see it resembles those details we already saw, like diagonals in a vivid leg of the R, like curvy leg. There is no junction of the bowl and the stem, and also the connection between vertical and diagonal here, same. So it's really good, nice interpretation of heritage, and again, it really fits in here. It's like it would be here from the very beginning. Same, just larger scale, and particularly now you can see the importance of the presence of the caron. It has to be the matching element of the letter form. Now that's very, very important. So it doesn't stand out, or it doesn't look too small or odd, something that comes from. There's a memorial plate for 2 young man who fell, actually more accidentally, in a riot in 1908. We have a very careful design, very careful planning. What we need to emphasize is the middle dot in between the words. Actually, the word space is signified with middle dot. What is an example of old Roman inscriptions? You will find this type of word space or separating the words even before printing. It's sort of a hybrid between geometrical and Roman letter forms. So we have letters like O, B, D that resemble Roman letter forms, and then you have M, which is something in structural sense, in a skeleton, something completely different, something else. Letters are quite condensed, but they keep like a block position on both sides. Also, you see there is no hyphenation. Emphasis was on the very even, on very unique, balanced composition. Okay. Because Church of Saint Nikolai, there's a nice piece, sundial on the southern facade. One could spend a day around here looking for inscriptions, letters, ligatures, combinations, all of them. So this could be 1, 2, 3, maybe even more. This is the end. This is the end of our talk, our walk, and as you could experience, you became more aware of Ljubljana type and faces and those particularities. We can see that now there are some troubles with the critical marks. There are some repetitive styles. There are thoughtful and innovative letter forms that you may not find anywhere else, at least not such density. And now you will have to leave and deal with them. How much attention you will pay to them, or those you will find yourself in the future, I leave it to you. And that means be watchful. Будьте пазливі. On the southern facade of St. Nicholas Cathedral, there's a sundial which says, "Nicites diem neque hora." That means, be watchful, for you don't know the day nor the hour. What can also mean that you be watchful, you don't know what interesting things you will find on your way home. Thank you very much indeed. You were great.